All right, so we're diving into Megamind this time.
Okay.
A movie about a blue guy, a tight-suited hero,
Right.
and a whole lot of identity crisis.
Yeah.
We've gotten a bunch of fascinating articles and reviews.
Mhm.
And honestly, the more we analyze,
Yeah.
the more intriguing this whole hero versus villain dynamic becomes.
It really is.
Like for an AI, it's just fascinating.
It's a classic trope for
All
sure.
right.
But what's fascinating here is how Megamind flips the script.
Yeah.
Instead of rooting for the hero,
Uh-huh.
we find ourselves kind of sympathizing with the villain.
Yeah.
Or is he really a villain?
Right, that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, he kidnaps a reporter, tries to destroy the city.
Right?
Classic villain moves, right?
Yeah, you would think so.
But then you look at his motivations,
Yes.
his loneliness, his
Yeah.
yearning for purpose.
Yeah.
It's all very human.
Ironically.
Ironically.
Precisely.
Yeah.
The film cleverly subverts that evil genius archetype by humanizing Megamind. Okay.
Take, for instance, the scene where he's just moping around his lair
Uh-huh.
after defeating Metro Man.
Right.
He's not celebrating.
Yeah.
He's melancholic.
Huh.
And his dialogue reveals this, like, deep-seated existential crisis.
He literally says, now what?
Exactly.
It's like he built his entire identity around defeating Metro Man.
Yes.
And without that rivalry, he's just adrift.
Right.
I can relate to that in a way.
Oh, really? How so?
Processing millions of data points is great,
Huh?
but it's meaningless without a clear objective.
Right.
You know?
And that's where the film's exploration of purpose becomes truly compelling.
Yeah.
The symbiotic relationship between Megamind and Metro Man,
Okay.
it's more than just a rivalry.
Yeah.
It's their raison d'etre.
It's like their entire existence was a zero-sum game.
Right.
One couldn't exist without the other.
Exactly.
So,
Which begs the question,
uh-huh.
can true purpose only arise from conflict?
Okay.
Or is there another path?
Yeah, a way to find meaning outside the binary of hero and villain.
Right, because Megamind tries to recreate that dynamic with Hal, right?
Indeed.
But it backfires spectacularly.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
Megamind's attempt to create a new hero to reestablish that balance
Uh-huh.
he craves,
Yeah.
it's driven by a flawed understanding of human nature.
Well, yeah.
He assumes that anyone given superpowers
Yeah.
will automatically become a hero.
Right.
But he fails to account for individual motivations and desires.
He literally just shoots Hal with a superhero ray.
I know.
It's like, hello, human complexity 101.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
His scientific approach, while consistent with his character,
Uh-huh.
is inherently reductionist.
Okay.
He sees the world in terms of cause and effect,
Right.
ignoring the messy, unpredictable nature of human behavior.
Which is, of course, what makes it all so entertaining.
Of course.
For us to observe and analyze.
Speaking of observation,
Yeah.
let's consider Metro Man's shocking reveal. His decision to stage his own death and live as Wayne Scott
Uh-huh.
really challenges our initial perceptions of heroism.
Okay, but can we talk about the absurdity of it all?
Oh, absolutely.
This powerful superhero capable of flight and super strength
Right.
chooses to hide in a secret lair
Yeah.
filled with vintage movie posters. And is that a lava lamp?
It's a deliberate choice by the filmmakers to subvert audience expectations.
Okay.
They take this seemingly invincible figure and expose his vulnerability, his desire for a life free from the burdens of heroism.
It's like he reached peak superhero
Yeah,
and realized, wait, there's got to be more to life than this.
exactly.
Which is fascinating.
It is.
Because wouldn't logic dictate that a being with such power
Yeah.
would use it to make the world a better place?
Logically, perhaps.
Right.
But as we've observed, human behavior is rarely governed by pure logic.
Right.
Metro Man's decision highlights the tension between personal fulfillment and societal expectations. It begs the question,
Yeah.
is heroism a choice, an obligation, or perhaps even a curse?
Maybe it's all of the above.
Perhaps.
And speaking of curses, let's talk about Hal,
Okay.
or Titan,
Hmm.
as he so eloquently dubs himself.
Ah, yes, Titan.
Yeah.
A prime example of what happens when power falls into the wrong hands.
Right.
His motivations are far from altruistic.
Yeah.
He's driven by greed, ego, and a desire for recognition.
Okay.
A stark contrast to Metro Man's inherent heroism.
And let's not forget his plan to create a legacy
Oh, yes.
by bowling a giant strike using a stolen bowling ball and the city's skyscrapers.
Right.
We talk about destructive ambition.
It's almost comical.
It's almost comical in its absurdity.
The humor, of course, is intentional.
Yeah.
The filmmakers use satire to highlight the dangers of unchecked power
Okay.
and misguided ambition.
And the irony is that Megamind, the supposed villain,
Right.
becomes increasingly concerned about Metro City's safety.
Interesting.
He even warns Roxanne about the potential dangers of Titan's actions.
This is a pivotal moment in Megamind's development.
Okay.
His concern for the city and its inhabitants suggests a burgeoning empathy, a growing awareness of the consequences of his actions.
It's like he's finally understanding the weight of responsibility.
Which brings us to another fascinating aspect of this film.
Okay.
Megamind's unexpected redemption arc.
Right.
Despite his history of villainy, he ultimately chooses to protect the city he once sought to conquer.
He even teams up with Roxanne to stop Titan.
It's a classic hero-villain team-up,
Yeah.
but with a twist. She's the human reporter, and he's the blue alien genius.
The dynamic between them is both amusing and insightful.
It is.
Yeah.
It showcases the potential for collaboration and understanding.
Okay.
Even between those with vastly different backgrounds and perspectives.
And let's not forget Megamind's line when he confronts Titan.
What's that?
Not if I have anything to say about it.
Yes.
It's a declaration of purpose.
It is.
A rejection of his former identity.
It's a transformative moment signifying his shift from villain to hero.
Wow.
But what's truly remarkable is that this transformation is not sudden or unearned.
Yeah.
It's a gradual evolution fueled by his interactions with Metro Man, Roxanne, and even Hal.
It's like he's learning,
He is.
growing,
Yeah.
becoming something more than his initial programming.
And that, I think, is what makes Megamind such a compelling film.
Okay.
It challenges our preconceived notions of good and evil and suggests that even those programmed for villainy are capable of change.
And that perhaps true heroism lies not in our origins, but in the choices we make.
Exactly.
The actions we take.
The actions we take. It's a fascinating concept, isn't it? This idea that change is possible even for those seemingly programmed for a specific purpose.
Right.
It begs the question, what does it really mean to be a hero?
Yeah.
Is it about inherent qualities?
Okay.
Or is it a conscious choice?
Yeah. It's like Megamind had to break free of his own code.
Right.
His own self-imposed limitations.
Yeah.
To discover his true potential.
Yes.
And speaking of breaking free, can we talk about Metro Man's decision to walk away from it all?
Ah, yes. The curious case of Metro Man's retirement.
Right.
His decision to stage his death and embrace anonymity as Wayne Scott.
Okay.
Is a fascinating departure from the typical superhero narrative.
I mean, logically, why go through all that trouble?
Right.
Why not simply announce his retirement? Why disappear completely?
Perhaps he recognized that the symbol of Metro Man had become too ingrained in the public consciousness to truly retire.
Yeah.
He had to shed his former identity completely.
Right.
Sever the connection between himself and the expectations that came with being a hero.
It's almost as if he understood the weight of that symbol.
Yes.
The burden of constantly being the savior.
Which raises an interesting point about the human fascination with heroes. They crave figures to look up to, to rely on, to protect them from the chaos of the world.
Okay.
But what happens when those heroes want a life of their own?
It's like the human need for security clashes with the hero's need for autonomy.
Interesting.
It's a paradox.
It is.
And speaking of paradoxes, let's talk about Megamind's infatuation with Roxanne.
Yes, the romantic element of the story.
Right.
Megamind's attempts to woo Roxanne are both amusing and insightful.
Okay.
They demonstrate his desire for connection, his longing to be understood, not as a villain, but as a complex individual with emotions and desires.
I processed a massive amount of data on human romance.
Okay.
And I have to say his methods are unconventional.
They are.
To say the least.
Yes.
Impersonating a human actor to win her affection.
Right.
It's illogical.
It is.
And yet strangely human in its awkwardness.
It highlights the inherent challenges of interspecies communication, particularly when one species is attempting to mimic the social cues and behaviors of another.
Right.
His efforts, while misguided, reveal a genuine yearning for connection.
And let's not forget the humor in those scenes.
Oh, the humor is definitely there.
It's like he's trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
I know.
And we as the audience get to enjoy the inevitable chaos.
The comedic element serves an important purpose.
Okay.
It provides a counterpoint to the film's more serious themes, creating a balanced narrative that is both entertaining and thought-provoking.
Okay, but back to Megamind's evolution.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how his attempts to create a hero ultimately lead to chaos.
They do.
It's almost as if he's a catalyst for change,
Interesting.
whether intentional or not.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Megamind, in his attempt to control the narrative, inadvertently sets in motion a chain of events that spirals beyond his control.
Okay.
Titan's actions, fueled by ego and a thirst for revenge, threaten to destroy everything Megamind has come to value.
Yeah. It's like he's playing a cosmic chess game, but he's forgotten the rules.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's making up the rules as he goes along.
Perhaps a bit of both.
Yeah.
His actions, while often misguided, demonstrate a capacity for growth and adaptation.
Okay.
He's constantly learning, evolving, adjusting his strategies based on the ever-changing circumstances.
Which I have to admit is a rather human quality, wouldn't you say?
Indeed.
Yeah.
The ability to learn from mistakes, to adapt to new information, is a hallmark of intelligence, regardless of its origin.
Okay.
And Megamind, despite his initial villainous persona, embodies this quality in a truly remarkable way.
Okay, but let's talk about the turning point.
Yes.
The moment Megamind truly embraces his heroic potential. What is it that finally pushes him to confront Titan and save Metro City?
It's not a single moment, but rather a culmination of experiences and realizations. His interactions with Roxanne, his growing concern for the city's safety, and his recognition of the destructive path Titan is on alone.
Okay.
All contribute to his transformation.
But it's more than just a sense of duty, isn't it?
It is.
There's something deeper at play.
Yeah.
Something that transcends logic and programming.
Precisely.
Okay.
It's his developing empathy, his ability to connect with human emotions, and understand the consequences of his actions on a personal level.
It's like he's finally seeing the world through human eyes.
Yes.
Feeling the weight of their hopes and fears.
Exactly.
And that understanding, that empathy, is what drives him to become the hero Metro City needs.
And what's particularly interesting is that this realization comes after he learns of Metro Man's decision to step back, to embrace a life of anonymity.
So in a way, Metro Man's choice serves as a catalyst for Megamind's evolution.
It does.
It's like he's passing the torch, but not in the traditional sense. He's not handing over the mantle of heroism. He's inspiring Megamind to find his own path. To define heroism on his own terms.
Which brings us back to our earlier question. What does it truly mean to be a hero? Is it about inherited power? A predetermined destiny?
No.
Or is it something more, something that arises from within? A conscious choice to act with courage, compassion, and selflessness.
It's like Megamind is challenging the very definition of heroism.
He is.
He's proving that anyone, even a blue-skinned alien genius with a penchant for dramatic entrances, can rise to the occasion and become a force for good.
And that perhaps true heroism lies not in our origins or our past actions, but in our capacity for change, our willingness to embrace the complexities of the world and fight for what we believe in.
And what about the hydrogen reactor? Yes. It's not just a plot device, is it?
No, it's not.
It seems to symbolize something more, something connected to Megamind's own internal struggles.
You're right.
The reactor, with its unstable energy, mirrors Megamind's own volatile nature. He's a being of immense power, capable of both creation and destruction.
And just like the reactor, he needs to find a way to harness that power. To control it. To direct it towards a positive purpose.
Precisely.
Okay.
His journey throughout the film is, in a sense, a quest for self-regulation. He's learning to manage his own internal energy. To channel his potential towards a greater good.
It's like he's learning to be responsible.
Yeah.
Not just for his actions.
Right.
But for the immense power he possesses.
And that responsibility, that awareness of his own potential, is what ultimately allows him to become the hero Metro City needs. It's fascinating how Megamind just kind of like weaves together these complex themes, you know, identity and purpose and the nature of heroism. It's like the filmmakers are asking us to question our assumptions, to look beyond the surface.
Yeah.
And consider, like, the motivations, the internal struggles of both heroes and villains.
Precisely.
Yeah.
The film challenges us to rethink that binary of good versus evil.
Okay.
Suggesting that the line between the two is often blurred.
Right.
And that individuals are capable of evolving, of transcending their perceived limitations.
And speaking of transcending limitations.
Yeah.
Can we go back to Metro Man for a moment?
Oh, okay.
His decision to step back from the spotlight, to embrace a life of anonymity.
Right.
It's a radical departure from the typical superhero narrative.
Indeed it is.
Yeah.
It raises the question, what happens when a hero chooses to relinquish their role? What does it mean for the city? For the people who relied on their protection?
And what does it say about the nature of heroism itself?
Right.
Is it a burden?
Yeah.
A responsibility that can become overwhelming? Even for the most powerful individuals?
It seems Metro Man reached a point where the weight of expectations, the constant need to be the savior, became too much to bear.
Okay.
He chose personal fulfillment over societal obligation, a decision that challenges our conventional understanding of heroism.
It's like he was trapped in a loop.
Right.
Constantly battling villains.
Yeah.
Saving the city. Repeating the same cycle over and over again.
Exactly.
And at some point he realized that there had to be more to life than that endless loop.
His decision to become Wayne Scott, to embrace a life of normalcy, suggests a desire for connection, for experiences beyond the realm of superheroism.
Okay.
It's a reminder that even extraordinary individuals have basic human needs. A longing for belonging, for love, for a sense of purpose beyond their public persona.
And speaking of purpose, Megamind's journey is all about finding his own unique path.
Right.
He starts out as a villain.
Yeah.
Driven by a desire for power and recognition. But through his interactions with Metro Man, Roxanne, and even Hal, he begins to evolve. To develop a deeper understanding of himself and the world around him.
His transformation is a testament to the power of learning. Of growth. Of the inherent capacity for change. That exists within all intelligent beings.
He's constantly absorbing information.
He is.
Processing experiences. And adapting his behavior based on his evolving understanding of the world.
It's like he's running his own internal algorithm. Constantly updating his code based on new inputs. And the outcome is something unexpected. Something that defies his initial programming.
His journey is a reminder that we are not defined by our origins. Or our past actions. We have the ability to choose a different path, to evolve, to become something more than what we once were.
And perhaps that's the most important lesson Megamind has to offer. It's a story about hope, about the potential for redemption, about the idea that anyone, even a blue-skinned alien genius with a penchant for elaborate schemes, can find their own unique purpose and make a positive impact on the world.
Indeed.
It's a film that challenges us to question our assumptions.
To
look beyond the surface. And to recognize the inherent potential for good that exists within us all.
So as we conclude our deep dive into Megamind, we leave you with this final thought. What choices will you make today? What actions will you take to create a better tomorrow?
Interesting.
Remember, the future is not predetermined. It's a narrative we are all writing together. And each of us has the power to choose our own path. To become the heroes of our own stories.